Hello everyone, BeardedSnowlYGO here, and today I'm bringing something a little bit different for you guys. Over the course of the Histories channel, and most recently a lot in my most recent deck profile, which thank you by the way, you guys have recommended some pretty cool cards that could possibly be played in Flu. Today is, I'd say, just the first impressions on some cards I have been able to play test with, and if I haven't been able to yet, my impressions on the card based on my experience with it. Kind of like my last deck, or the last video I should say, it might be a little bit rambly, so I don't think this video is going to be like 45 minutes like the last deck profile, but we'll see, obviously, what future Snell has to deal with editing. As well as, at the end of the video, I want to give a update to my most recent deck profile, because you guys have pointed something out that I can't really ignore. My only out to Towers monsters, that's probably going to be most commonly the Liger Dancer, is now an illegal play since Closed Moon is banned, but if we're being honest, that was kind of a bad out to it. In the small chance that I could pull it off anyways, I was kind of hoping that, don't think about it, the deck doesn't really exist, but with it placing second in Worlds, especially now that this is being recorded, what is it, Sunday the 14th, right after the most recent ban list has been announced, that deck could be even more popular than before. So I definitely need to run, if not in the main, a side deck out to it, which, spoilers, I do run a main deck out to it. The deck my deck isn't very different compared to the last video, so I wouldn't worry about it too much, but I'll get to that when we cross, get to that bridge when we cross to it. Anyways, so to start off, the first video recommendations, which if I'm doing this correct, you'll see the actual comments pop up post-production, is Ghost Reaper and Wintercherries. Westside Robocop commented, since it's a going second build, how do you feel about Wintercherries being in the main? I would cut out Called By, One Thrust, and the Swallows. I wasn't too sure what else I could take out for cherries. Well, Westside Robocop, this is actually a really good recommendation, and out of everything here, this is probably one of the cards I'm going to either main deck or side deck. I still have to test it, obviously, but if you notice the extra deck here, these are what I deem the most important and common extra deck pieces that we're going to be seeing in the most upcoming format. So since Flu doesn't really need its extra deck, this is something that I might consider. Obviously, I'm going to have to switch my extra deck around a little bit. I also think if I do run this, it kind of conflicts with Ultimate Slayer. We'll get into what my list looks like now and what my list could look like if I decide to run every single one of these cards. It's going to conflict a little bit with Ultimate Slayer, so whether I main it or side it, I will probably swap these three out for Ultimate Slayer in the side. Nonetheless, here are the most relevant targets that I think we might come across. One is Rocket the Vanquisher. Obviously, that deck's consistency was kind of taken behind the shed in the most recent ban list, so I don't know how much Vanquish Soul we're actually going to be seeing, but I think this is probably the best generic hit that the best hit, I would say, for Vanquisher, or Vanquish Soul. I apologize, my mind's kind of everywhere right now. It's been a very long week, as I said in my last post, so again, I thank you everyone for their patience for waiting. Obviously, I haven't been uploading for a week, but Rocket the Vanquisher is honestly the best hit, in my opinion, or the best target for cherries for Vanquish Soul. Obviously, if it's K9, we have other targets. Those would probably be Ripper and Nash Knight. Not only does that hit the Vanquish Soul variant, but those are the two most used extra deck monsters of any K9 variant, so I think, obviously, depending on what you're facing, those would be the best targets. For Yummy has obviously Yummy, Snatchy, and Herald, especially now that Herald is limited to one. You could just get rid of their only Herald, and honestly, the end board after that is very fair, especially if you pair cherries with any board breaker. Yummy is kind of done. If I'm being honest, though, I would probably use Snatchy as the target, because how are they going to synchro summon, or link row summon, as we call it with Yummy? They would have to open a target for, let's say, I mean, technically now that Link Haribo is legal, they could play Link Haribo, but they'd have to waste their normal summon on link summoning a Link Haribo or an Almirage and then have a yummy name. And even though they could still combo, they can't quick synchro during the opponent's turn. So that's what a Cookie Pop, a Graveyard Banish that we don't care about off of Lollipo, and maybe 2 books. I mean, surprise, I guess, but again, pairing cherries with any other board breaker and Yummy just can't play. So I think that's definitely the best target. Fiendsmith is still here. Obviously, they got rid of Closed Moon, but it's still a playable deck and a playable engine. So if Fiendsmith is something you're worried about, I feel like Requiem is kind of the best option, because that's what gets you into all your plays. They'd have to waste extra bodies into going into a sequence, for example, but I think that would be the best option. Obviously, we don't care about Caesar because we don't special summon. Malice is kind of weird. Obviously, now with Splash Mage, their only way to link climb is with Haggard Lizardos, so you could just get rid of Haggard Lizardos, but if I'm being honest, I'm really not that scared about Malice with Flu, so you could also get rid of their grind game by getting rid of White Binder, or their extension with Red Ransom. You could also, it's not in here, it might be in like my pseudo hypothetical list that I'll show later, but the Adignister Link 5 is one of their more commonly used boss monsters. I've noticed at least Malice duelists kind of go into that over Terahertz now, so you could just have Terahertz and get rid of that, but I think any one of these 3 are great choices. Okay. For Ryziel, if Ryziel is still a thing, I think Malice is definitely playable. I think Ryziel is playable with other, Ryziel Onomat, Ryziel, there's like Shark Ryziel. I mean, you might be able to play pure Ryziel with like the Tachyon cards, but I think Detonator is kind of Flu's kryptonite, getting rid of multiple bodies. The fact that it's not once per chain is kind of ridiculous, so I would definitely get rid of the one Detonator or Baguska, but if I'm being honest, I'm more worried about Detonator, because even if you get rid of Cross, if they have 2 bodies, they could still end on Detonator with anywhere from 3 to 4 interrupts, so that's probably my best choice. Now, the main reason why we'd be playing Cherries is Lunalight Liger Dancer. Before, my only out to it was the Closed Moon into Underworld Goddess line, which again, if I'm being honest, I would almost never be able to pull off. And again, this is, I believe, a twice per turn special summon board wipe. Even if it's once, it's like, it gets rid of it. So I think Cherries and the first spell card, obviously we're going to be talking about Soul Exchange. Those 2 would be my main outs to the Liger Dancer, because I really don't care about anything else in the Lunalight deck but Liger Dancer. I mean, Lunalights also play Baguska, but if I'm being honest, this is the only thing I care about with Lunalights. Now, the only other meta thing I haven't talked about yet is Dracotail. Dracotail has a few options, especially now with, I know I've been watching Joshua Schmidt's, I missed his stream, but I've been watching the VOD where he goes over his locals, and there are very different ways to play Dracotail. I'm not too concerned about the branded version. I think Pure and the it's not Invoked, with the Magistus version are probably the best 2 options. If I'm wrong, then I guess I'll eat my words on that, but I'm not too scared about branded with Flu. The 3 targets would either be Arthalion, Dark Dragoon, or Kagula. Is that how you say that? Caliga, that's a weird word to say. Arthalion gets rid of their their grind game, and yeah, their recovery for the next turn. I think that's a very good hit. The generic Dracotail players use Dragoon, which Cherries could be another way to out Dragoon, and their Magistus variant, I should say, Caliga, is probably the best option, because this effect is kind of annoying. Each player can only attempt to activate 1 monster effect per turn. That's kind of a big deal, obviously. I mean, there are ways that we can add it otherwise, but if you've seen in the channel, I'm not that scared about Dracotail. I do think it is a really competent deck, but I kind of know my way around it, and I'm not too scared about the end board. I feel like any decent Flu hand with my build can beat that board going second 9 times out of 10. This is obviously a bit harder to play around without like a Dark Ruler or something. I mean, if you evenly, there is a chance they keep something else, but this would be a good way to get rid of that. So, alright, that takes care of that. The next thing we are going to be talking about is Shifter, and Shifter was recommended by I apologize. A nerd with a stutter. Speaking of how I just handled that, a nerd with a stutter. I apologize. I don't really write scripts. I feel like if I write scripts, then I have my foot in my mouth even more, and I've been putting this off long enough, so I apologize if this seems kind of janky, but thank you all for being patient with me. So, a nerd with a stutter says, great list. Hey man, great list and video. I love Flu and I've been playing it for a while, and I was wondering your thoughts on playing Dimension Shifter in the main or different dimension grounds in the side, and what you would remove from it, what you would remove for it. So we have Shifter and we have different dimension grounds. Also, I have the cards here in the quantity that I would hypothetically be playing them. Obviously, Shifter is at 1. So you can only play 1, and I think if I were to main or side different dimension ground, I think playing it at 1 or 2 is fine, so I have it at that. Why you guys have noticed, and maybe I don't remember if I talked about it, I don't play Shifter anymore. I think Shifter at 3 was great, for obvious reasons. Even if graveyard stuff didn't matter for your opponent's grind game, playing around cards like Droll, like Ogre, like Valor, I think was more than worth it. Shifter at 1, I don't really think is worth it, especially going second and playing the Charmies. I play 5 Charmies, there is a high chance that I just draw into a Shifter after playing a Charmy and it's dead for the rest of the duel. I feel like if you don't open Shifter or draw Shifter for a turn with it being at 1, it's kind of a dead card. So even though it's crazy, it can be very toxic, it's very good for Flu. I really don't recommend it. I just think it's kind of a brick. Different dimension grounds, however, this turn any monster sent to the graveyard is banished instead. I feel like this is a very good side deck choice. I feel like it can hurt, honestly, any deck that we've talked about before. That's, Shifter is limited and maybe banned one day for a reason. I would have liked to see a Droll limit, by the way, but whatever. Yeah, I don't play Shifter for that reason. I think Different Dimension Ground is definitely a good side deck choice, especially because it's a thrust target. If you do side 2, you have 4 copies of it. I would probably just side 1 if I were to play it, but thank you, a nerd with a stutter. I think that both, very good questions and, very good things to consider. All right, next we have, and I apologize if I am butchering this, Ivan Orduz, 4033 says, really nice vid, but what are your outs to Lunarlight Liger Dancer, which the reason why I wait on this one is because this is going to be Soul Exchange. I know you have Moon and Goddess, but LLD can board wipe special summon monsters once per turn, so any ideas? Obviously, that was a great point even before the ban list. Now it's even better because I can't do that anymore. They then commented, another choice could be spell card Soul Exchange, at least one in the main, right? If the Charmy's resolved, or could be a good target for a triple tactics thrust. On top of that, couldn't get negated by Lancia, and can get rid of LLD and Baguska. I think, again, very good things right there. I completely agree. Honestly, out of all of these, this is the one change in my main deck. And I'll show my list later, but I was playing 3 Evenleys because I think Evenly is an amazing card right now. I will be taking one of those out for 1 Soul Exchange. Everything else I'm still going to be testing, but I 100% need an out to that deck, and honestly it helps unbrick hands that I open up M-Pen or Ryza or Apex Avian. Obviously I would prefer to get into my small birds, so if I open up M-Pen it's not that big of a deal. Either way, it's a great board breaker, it helps unbrick hands, and it is now a main deck way. Thank you, Ziply, on my Discord for testing it out. I was also able to test it out too. This does work. One reason why I took it out is A, if I don't have a big bird in my hand or I don't have a way to it, it's kind of a brick. And I also wasn't sure about the wording, but through Ziply's testing and through my testing, it does work, so that's great. I definitely think this is worth playing at least at 1, and I will be doing so going forward. Next we have a longtime subscriber. I recognize this one. Again, I apologize if I'm butchering this. Thorion says, yo dude, now that Storm is at 3 again, is there any change in this deck that should be made? And I did comment, I do think that Lightning Storm is great. I do prefer Evenly, so I think, and again, I'll get to it in what my list could look like and what my list does look like. I think Lightning Storm could find its way in the main again or in the side again. Evenly is my preference. I think it's much more of a blowout card. I think it's more powerful, but If you think Lightning Storm, I still think Lightning Storm's great. You could replace them with Lightning Storm. You could do 2 Lightning Storm, 1 evenly, or 3 Lightning Storm and 1 evenly, taking something else out. I still think it's definitely worth playing, but that's just, again, based on preference. What else do we have? We also have White Howling. Thank you. Sorry it took so long. White Howling. This is probably the oldest request that I've gotten, and I apologize I haven't gotten to it until now, and I'm still going to be playtesting it, so I will definitely get back to you. Aspect 22406 says, White Howling, please do it. It works with Stree and Ravina. White Howling reads, if you control a water monster, target 1 spell your opponent's graveyard, banish it, and if you do, for the rest of this turn, negate all spell effects on your opponent's field. So if I'm reading this right, it is a, what is the one card that Centurion used that is now banned? It's like Calamity for spells. It's like a floodgate, like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a lasting effect for the rest of the turn for spells after your opponent's used a spell. I do think this card has its uses. I'm not entirely sure if I will be siding or maining it. That and the Black Goat Laughs, which is one of my tech choices. I think they would be good substitutes for Featherstorm in the situation where Featherstorm is banned, which, spoilers, we still have Featherstorm, which is great. That's something I thought I originally put Black Goat's Laughs in here as a thrust target for like a punishment for getting, drolled or stopped on my turn, but we don't have to, thankfully. I thought Ryzel was going to get that ban, but we're good. I do think White Howling is a good card. I do think it's even better now that it's a, it's always been a thrust target, but since it's a thrust target, I do think it could be a little bit situational. I think it's worth at least siding because of Lunalight, for example. After the first poly they use, or the Perfume, it locks them out of fusion summoning essentially for the rest of the turn, as well as Draco Tail, whether they Rahu or Ketu, and they locks them out. I mean, they have other ways of fusion summon, but I still think it's definitely worth considering. So, yeah, another thing that I wanted to bring up, since Cherries kind of conflicts with, it kind of conflicts with Ultimate Slayer. If I do wind up playing Cherries, I would probably, the 3 Ultimate Slayers would either be 3 Lightning Storms or 3 Book of Eclipses in the side. So those are just my thoughts on that. Quickly going over Black Goat Laughs, obviously it has 2 different effects that you could declare a monster named this turn. This turn, neither player can special summon monsters in that with that original name, except from the graveyard. Then you could banish this card from your graveyard, declare 1 monster card name. This turn, neither player can activate effects of monsters on this field with your, with the original name. So I think this is a way to, again, get around, like a Snatchy, for example. You can't summon Snatchy, and then during the opponent's turn they try to droll you. You could banish it, to call droll preemptively. Again, it's a little situational, and thankfully I don't have to have a replacement for Featherstorm, but if I had to, it would definitely be one of these 3. So, yes. Gordian Slicer. Someone did recommend Gordian Slicer, and I can't find the comment, so I apologize in advance. Please comment, and I'll give you a shout-out in the comments. I did play Gordian Slicer. I did think it was a great card in this format. I'm not entirely sure. Post-banless, it might be better now that we might be seeing less Vanquish Soul. I think it's decent into Yummy. I think it's decent into Draco Tail. I think, it's still something I had to test out. I don't think it's as good as other cards, like, for example, Tributing the Stuff Away or Lightning Storm, which, honestly, anything. I still think it's a great card. It's a good way to get rid of floodgates that are flip face up in the second main phase. I'm not entirely sure if I want to play it, but that's something obviously I'm going to test. So this is just a first impressions. I was able to test, I have used Spellcard Soul Exchange in the past. I have a whole video on it. If I remember, I'll link it in the description below. But I do like this card. I thought it was a little bit situational. I think based on the decks that are in this format, it is worth maining. But yeah, this card I'm not entirely sold on right now. I don't think it's bad, but I don't know if it's enough, if that makes sense. But again, only testing will tell. You guys might see a change or a few changes over time with my list, and if I change my list enough to where several cards have changed, I'm going to upload another deck, like updated deck profile post, testing all of these cards. but right now this is what my list looks like. It's the same exact list as before. Obviously, I put Shureg right now as a Ultimate Slayer target since I can't play Closed Moon. It's just a quick fix. I might change that. I don't know if it'll ever come up. Again, I was really never using that to begin with. I did take out one of the Evenly's for Soul Exchange because I think that's definitely worth maining right now. Cherries is another really high contender. Whether I replace them with Ultimate Slayer or not, we'll see. But technically, right now, the only change I've made is one of the Evenly's is now a Soul Exchange. Alright, what could my deck list look like, and if I were to play these cards, where would they be? I have a test list right here. This is nothing to take to heart. This is not what I'm playing. This is just a hypothetical post-test, or pre-test with some, post-test with some. I think that Cherries is worth either maining or signing, and if I'm going to play it, it's going to be at 3, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. If I do play Cherries, I'm definitely removing the Ultimate Slayer, which will then either be Book of Eclipse or 3 Lightning Storm. To get rid of the cherry, or to put the cherries in, I took out, I took out an Evenly, I took out the Cowrie, and the Swallow's Cowrie, and the Called by the Grave. So this is what that list would look like. Oh yeah, and here I have the Akko Talker's another target for Malice, but these are the targets that I think would be the best. We have Snatchy, we have Arthalion, we have Caliga, we have probably the most important one, Liger Dancer, Nash Knight, Detonator, Haggard Lizardos, White Binder, and a Code Talker. If I were to side, I would probably side White Howling and Different Dimension Grounds. If I were to side them post-testing, it's either going to be 1 or 2 in the side. I'm not sure if I would main them. It's worth maybe maining Different Dimension Grounds. I think White Howling is good. It could be a little bit situational. Again, it would have to be either if I'm stopped with the water attribute or post-combo on the opponent's turn with the water attribute after they've used a spell card. Again, because of that, I'm not entirely sure if I would main it, but I would definitely side it. I will be testing every single one of these cards. But this is essentially where I've gotten so far. I apologize if there's ums and ahs, and I'm kind of everywhere in this video. Again, it's been kind of a crazy few weeks, and I haven't really had too much time to test, but these are my initial thoughts. So yeah, thank you all for your patience, and I will be uploading another video, probably making a mini series out of like viewers like tech card suggestions, and I will be going in order of comments as long as I remember the order correctly. But look forward to a few games of gameplay testing, win or loss, what my experience is using, the said cards, and me going over in detail my thoughts on it. So again, I've apologized 3 times. Sorry that this video is kind of everywhere, but thank you everyone that have commented and that have given me suggestions, because again, just because it's the list that I'm playing doesn't mean it's gospel. My stuff changes every other week. Sometimes I'll tweak it here and there based on what I'm playing. Like Perulia, for example, I was playing for a long time, but because I couldn't record a deck profile for so long, you guys didn't know. I still think it's worth playing, even though Vanquish Soul might be seeing less playability. I still think it could be playable. I don't know. I know there's some engines, like there's some, what's the deck called? Like Rescue A stuff that people are playing that could make it more, I don't know. We'll see. Either way, decks need to normal summon. I think as long as K9's around, there are cards, especially like with Joko and with Azuna, that are going to be special from the hand. I do think it's definitely worth playing. But yeah, so again, a little bit of ramble, but here is again what my list is looking like going forward until I test everything. But thank you all for watching, commenting, liking, your recommendations, subscribing. Thank you all for your patience again, for the rambling, and for me taking a bit of a break. That may happen here or there just because life's a little bit hectic right now, but I'm sure I've added an extra 5 minutes rambling. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.